And with the draft right around the corner, we're taking a look at Ryan Wilson's latest mock draft. He's just been taking things into high gear as we approach April 27th. Mock after mock. And here's how he thinks things are going to go down through picks 1 through 10. He's got 3 QBs going in the top 5. Number 1 overall, he has Bryce Young going to Carolina, then C.J. Stroud over to the Texans, Tyree Wilson, followed by Anthony Richardson, and then Will Anderson Jr. topping out the top 5. We have Ryan Wilson with us and Pete Prisco, I'm so sorry, Pete, to break down Ryan's latest mock draft. All right, Ryan, we're going to start with number 1 here. We're talking about the Texans, what they should do with picks 1 and 12, or 2 and 12, I should say. So they're going to take C.J. Stroud with the number 2 pick as their quarterback, and then Jackson Smith-Njigba with the number 12 pick. So, Pete, why does Houston need this pairing? What do you think?
Well, I wouldn't have that pairing. I think that, when you look what Ryan picked, he won't get off the C.J. Stroud train. He's one of those guys that doesn't believe the hype out there that he's falling a little bit, so he's going to take him with the 2nd overall pick in this mock draft. I wouldn't do that. I don't think they will do that. I think C.J. Stroud has a chance to fall down this draft a little bit. He's not going to be a big fall. I hear the Tennessee Titans love him, and they might make a move to go up and get him, but I don't like this at all. I don't think this is the way it's going to play out. I think the Texans are going to pass on a quarterback and take a defensive lineman, probably Tyree Wilson at number 2.
Jacqueline, you were right to call him Treat, because Pete is a treat. So Treat Prisco, Pete Prisco, doesn't matter. Also worth noting, by the way, and Pete, you know this, I thought you would have pointed it out. This is what I think should happen, not what will actually happen. This is what I think would be in the best interest of the teams picking. And just so you guys know, Pete Prisco's What Should Happen mock draft comes out Tuesday, so look forward to that. I look forward to ripping that apart, hopefully on this very show tomorrow, Pete. But here's the thing, and Pete mentioned it. Like, the Texans probably aren't in on a quarterback not named Bryce Young, and that's a fair point, and I don't disagree with that at all. They should take C.J. Stroud if he's there, though. I know Pete likes another quarterback. Whatever the case, you can't have 2 first-round picks at 2 and 12. You're in desperate need of a quarterback, and then come out of the first round without a quarterback. So that's why I have them going C.J. Stroud, and then you double down to get him his teammate, Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's probably going to be wide receiver 1 by the time it's all said and done. Will this actually happen? C.J. Stroud probably will not end up at Houston. He may go number 2 to another team, but I think there's a chance for Jackson Smith-Njigba to be a pick there at 12 for the Texans should they want to revamp a much-needed wide receiver room that's lacking some playmakers as we sit here right now.
All right, next on the what they should do mock draft, Ryan, it's one of our favorite topics to talk about. We got the Colts in this latest mock selecting Anthony Richardson, number 4 overall. And we've talked about it, Ryan. Maybe AR needs to go somewhere and learn from a veteran QB, not necessarily a day 1 starter. Pete, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think Indy is the fit for AR?
No, I don't. You mentioned it. He's got to sit and learn for a while. It's going to be a process for him. That's why I think Seattle would be the best place for him, because he could sit behind Geno Smith. I think the Colts are going to go after Will Levis, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. I think, Anthony Richardson, some people think it's going to be 3 years before he can become a productive NFL starter. I don't necessarily agree with that. I'm just telling you what some guys around the league think. I do think he is a project, though, and I don't think Chris Ballard, the general manager of the Colts, can be patient and wait for a project, because I think he has to win now, so I think he'd go in another direction.
I like the idea of pairing him with Shane Steichen, who was previously the offensive coordinator in Philadelphia, had all that success with Jalen Hurts, and obviously Jalen Hurts had a lot to do with that. But don't forget, Jalen came out of Alabama/Oklahoma, and one of the concerns was the accuracy, and that's something we talk about with Anthony Richardson. Anthony Richardson is somehow a better athlete and a better runner than Jalen Hurts, and I think you can incorporate that early into what the Colts do. I agree with Pete. I mean, the best case scenario landing spot for Anthony Richardson would be Seattle, where he can sit for a year behind Geno Smith, maybe 2, and you're at a stable organization where the coach and the GM aren't going anywhere. We don't know what Chris Ballard's future is going to be if this team continues to struggle, but I like the idea of infusing some youth into the quarterback position in Indianapolis, where historically, at least in a post-Andrew Luck world, it's been about trying to find veterans to rekindle their career, and it hasn't worked so far.
Now, in a lot of mocks leading up to the draft, of course, Christian Gonzalez, he's been CB1 week after week in a lot of those mocks. Now, in this What They Should Do version, Ryan has Witherspoon going 7 overall before Gonzalez goes over 8 overall, to the Falcons. Pete, do you agree with that?
No, I don't, but they're close. I mean, they're two good corners. I think they're different. One's longer. Gonzalez is a longer corner. I think he's a better man cover player. I think Witherspoon is a feisty guy. I mean, here's the thing about Witherspoon that scares me and scares a lot of scouts around the league. He weighs 185 pounds and he hits like he's a linebacker. Will he hold up in the National Football League? Because he's a physical, tough player. And sometimes when you throw your body around like that, you're not a big guy, you have some injuries. I know he didn't get injured in the Big Ten, but I still think there's a whole different level of physicality on the next level. So I'd be concerned with that. I would go with Gonzalez, but I could see one being just slightly ahead of the other.
They're close, and it depends on who you talk to. And Pete, you can't live in your fears. The young man has never been hurt. He's fine. You want a physical corner. He's a playmaker. He helps in run support. And Christian Gonzalez is equally, he's tiny, I understand, but he's 6'1", so he's a few inches taller than both of us. So we'll give him that. And he weighs a little less than us, too, so we'll give him that as well. But look, here's the thing with Christian Gonzalez. Christian Gonzalez is 6'2", and he's the cornerback you build in the factory, and you put him out there, and he starts playing. And my comp back in the fall was Kyrie Elam. He's a better player than Kyrie Elam, who went late in the first round last year. He's a little better in run support, better ball production in terms of turnovers. So I'm with Pete. It's 1 and 1A. Depends on what you like, whether you're drafting at 7 and you're the Raiders or 8 in the Falcons. You can flip-flop those cornerbacks based on where they go off the board and the needs you're trying to fill. But they're going to be the first 2 cornerbacks drafted. I feel pretty certain about that.
And Ryan, in your latest mock, you have the Eagles selecting Bijan Robinson at 10 overall. Some people might say it could be a reach for the Eagles to be taking a running back with their 10th pick. Why did you do that pairing in this latest mock draft?
All right, Jacqueline, I'll keep this short because I want to hear what Pete feels about this. I think this team has very few needs. You could go edge rusher here, but I feel like Bijan Robinson is the best running back in this class. He's not going to be there at 30, and maybe, Pete, you circle back and get Jahmyr Gibbs, but you just went all in on your quarterback. Why not help him with one of the most dynamic players in this draft who's going to help from day one, not only as a runner, but also as a receiver and a blocker? What do you think about that, Pete?
Because you don't pick running backs in the top 10. It's an easy thing to do. Just say no. Don't do it. I mean, take his backup, his teammate. Take Roschon Johnson in the second round. You'll be just as happy. There's a million backs in this draft. You draft them after the first round, unless you're the Eagles with the second first-round pick and you get some help for your defensive line early in the draft, then you can come back and take a guy like Bijan Robinson or Gibbs from Alabama with the later first-round pick. You don't draft a running back in the top 10. Have we not learned that lesson yet? Please, Ryan, stop it. And by the way, I am hearing also that the Falcons are interested in Bijan Robinson in the top 10, which would be a major mistake as well.
Okay, I don't think we've agreed on anything so far, so we have one last shot to see if Pete and Ryan agree on something. So in Ryan's latest mock, we have the Rams trading up to get Hendon Hooker, who was likely a first-round conversation if he doesn't tear his ACL late in the season. Pete, do you think the Rams would trade up for Hendon Hooker?
Hell no. They have 5 picks in this draft. They have a roster that lacks talent at so many different positions. They can't afford to give up any picks to move up to try and get Hendon Hooker. Look, Matt Stafford, we know there's some injury concerns. He's coming back. No, you do not trade up to get a guy who, A, is coming off an injury, and B, he's 26 years old in January. No way the Rams do this. I hate this trade. Ryan, come on, man. You don't give up picks when you don't have players.
So Jacqueline mentioned the trade up at 25. I have to mention the trade up at 31. The Titans come up to get, let me check here, Will Levis. And Jacqueline, I'll just tell you the text that I get from Pete when I bring up Will Levis going to the bottom of the first round. Idiot. Moron. So Pete doesn't think that's going to happen. He loves Will Levis. He thinks he's going to go much higher than 31. Will Levis might go in the second round. I can't wait to see Pete's face when that happens.
Pete doesn't mince his words. He lets us know exactly how he feels. That is Ryan Wilson and our CBS Sports writer Pete Prisco with us to break down Ryan's latest mock and not agreeing on anything. But hey, that's what we do here. We give you all sides of the argument. If you want more from Ryan Wilson, you can hear him alongside former GM Rick Spielman on their podcast With the First Pick. Emory Hunt is hopping on the pod in the latest episode, going down with his latest mock draft and saying if he were a GM, what he would do in the first round for each of those teams. You can download and listen wherever you find your pods, or you can scan that QR code and watch it on YouTube.